Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's feature presentation. My name is Shantae Moore, and I will be your host for today's discussion surrounding an important and very timely topic, the future of Black American financial literacy. For me, this presentation is particularly important because as an African American and Native American woman, I find it so extremely important to have these financial literacy conversations with Indigenous, Black, and persons of color. Um, I've found in my experience that very rarely are our communities ever approached about financial literacy and resources offered to help our communities move forward. So I wanted to start by sharing a couple of details about why is this an important topic. Again, regardless of my community and background, this relates to millions of Americans across the country, but specifically for Black Americans, our presentation here centers on startling data from an insightful new survey. It's titled Financial Literacy, Wellness, and Resilience Among African Americans. And this survey came about by the TIA Institute. And it's very shocking, yet it's totally unsurprising how these statistics actually support our message here at WealthWave that financial illiteracy is the #1 economic crisis in our nation and really the globe. It affects every community in North America, but again, some communities are greater impacted than others. And we'll see tonight how financial illiteracy especially limits the financial wellness of Black Americans. So let's just start with this troubling statement, which is clear from TIA's Personal Finance Index study. The financial well-being of Black Americans lags that of the US population as a whole. And the reason for this fact are very complex, but the data reveals that financial illiteracy is a significant contributing factor to that gap. And from my experience, I've been in this financial services industry for over 15 years. And even with our company, WealthWave, we know that the greatest approach to help close this disparity between Black Americans and other populations is to deliver a system of financial education that teaches people how money works. And on top of that, to offer access to top financial products that have been primarily enjoyed by the wealthy. This is probably one of the most effective ways that we can help increase the financial well-being enjoyed by Black Americans. And it should also be noted that this is also true for others in the communities all around us who are held back by not knowing how money works, and those people who are also typically taken advantage of by those who actually do know how money works. So what is financial literacy? Financial literacy is the knowledge and understanding that enables sound financial decision-making and the effective management of your personal finances. So when a person's financial literacy is increased, their total well-being follows right behind. It can elevate every area of their life. And during this episode, we're going to focus on statistics from some of the latest studies surrounding this important and timely topic. So studies show that the financial literacy level of the average US adult is moderate to poor. And obviously that's certainly a cause for concern. But what's even more troubling is the fact that financial literacy among Black Americans is behind the average US adult. And here in a recent survey, a recent Personal Finance Index survey study, Black American adults on average answered only 38% of the study questions correctly. 28% answered over half of the study questions correctly, and only 5% answered over 75% of the questions correctly. So in other words, the average Black American adult doesn't know the basics about how money works. The index also measured personal finance knowledge and understanding in several key areas like wages and take-home pay, budgets and managing spending, saving factors that maximize accumulations, investment types, risk and return, borrowing and managing debt, and types of coverage and how insurance works. And in each area, Black Americans answered less than half of index questions correctly. So when you really zoom into the statistics, you'll find particular areas where financial literacy is weaker than others. So for instance, Black Americans rate lowest within the topic of insuring, only answering about 32% of those questions correctly. And functional knowledge was only marginally better within the areas of comprehending risk, investing, and also go-to information sources. But on the bright side, borrowing and debt management were the highest areas of personal financial knowledge for Black Americans. And among Black American adults, financial literacy is higher among men and older individuals, the formally educated, and also higher income earners. Financial literacy is significantly higher among men than women. And according to the index questions answered correctly, there's a 7 percentage point difference between Black American men and women. Another insight from the study is that personal finance knowledge tends to increase with age. So on average, Black Americans under the age of 45 were able to answer 33% of index questions correctly. Now, when you compare that with the 43% correct answers by those who are 45 and older, that's a difference of 10 percentage points. Personal finance knowledge also tends to be greater among those with higher household incomes. So when we're comparing index questions answered correctly, there's a 29% disparity between Black Americans with a household income below $25,000 than with those with household income of $100,000 or more. So this clearly indicates that families with higher incomes generally know more about the fundamentals of personal finance. And then for this last section here, financial literacy also varies with employment status. So in particular, unemployed or disabled Black Americans have substantially lower personal finance knowledge than those who are either employed and retired. And in the US adult population, financial literacy tends to be greater among those with higher end financial education. So there's an 11% difference in percentage of index questions answered correctly between Black Americans who have participated in financial education and those who have not. And on average, college-educated Black Americans answer 53% of questions correctly, compared with 24% among those without a high school degree. So a correlation between financial literacy and financial wellness, it has always existed. And the findings in this study show that this holds true among Black Americans. The study indicates that those with a higher level of financial literacy tend to exhibit greater financial well-being. And this is consistent with the financial literacy stats that we had first covered. Black American adults tend to experience a lower financial well-being than any other American adult. So as we said, financial literacy is the knowledge and understanding that enables sound financial decision-making and effective management of your money. So therefore, knowing how money works helps define the entire well-being of an individual. So, and numbers like these that continue to come out year after year, that should signal to us all that the quality of life is really determined by how money works. So if this is true, why do schools and businesses, government, and communities ignore or downplay or even de-emphasize financial education? And once you really start studying, it's very obvious. So financial literacy and financial wellness, they do go hand in hand. And one does determine the other. So those who are more financially literate are more likely to plan and actually save for their retirement, to have non-retirement savings, and to better manage their debt. They're also less likely to be financially vulnerable. So while not a cure-all, improving financial literacy can lead to improved financial capability and personal financial practices that benefit even those with relatively low incomes. Improved financial literacy could help provide a measurable quality of life difference by increasing financial opportunity and also increasing financial confidence, financial success, regardless of income level. So, according to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors in 2019, 66% of Black Americans report that they are doing at least okay financially. The median household income among Black Americans in 2019 was $35,400, but the Black American household net worth was only $17,600, and 19% had a zero or negative net worth. So the only word that, really comes to mind for me when I think of this is unacceptable. According to the National Financial Educators Council, not knowing how money works costs Americans over $415 billion in 2020. And that's money that should either be in our pockets for our communities and not in the votes of the financial industry. And education puts that money back in the hands of our schools, our churches, our businesses, and our homes. But to get that education out there, we need more teachers. And that's what we're doing here, teaching teachers who can then teach this information to everyone else. So consider this. 13.4% of the 328 million people in the US are Black Americans, which number around 44 million people. The PenFin survey indicates that 62% of Black Americans are financially illiterate. And this tells us that there are at least 27 million Black Americans in America who need financial education. 27 million. And the only way to bring this number down is by delivering a financial education that is almost universal in its effectiveness. So, with our mission to stamp out financial illiteracy everywhere, we looked for a financial education system that would work with every family and with people at every age and every stage of life. We looked everywhere. And our system came up empty. So we created our own. And it starts with our book, How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. The book is simple, it's illustrated, and it's a super easy read. It's not written for just economists and scholars. It is written for the average person, basically for everyone else. And How Money Works is the first financial education book that anyone at any age can enjoy and benefit from, literally from age 10 all the way to age 100. And speaking of the number 100, the book has now been featured on over 120 national TV shows, including CNBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox. Now, How Money Works book has received a rare endorsement from a national nonprofit called the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. And it's been reviewed and referenced all over the internet, including the popular online financial publication, Make It by CNBC. So our education system is based on carefully constructed criteria to teach financial literacy quickly and effectively. We offer master classes that can be taught in single sessions, taught in person or remotely over the web. We have our Elements course, which can be taught in 5 classes, and they're only about 25 minutes each. And then one of the most invaluable tools in our How Money Works education system is the 7 money milestones. So we use this proven methodology as a roadmap that creates a step-by-step path for families to follow so they know exactly where they're going and how to get there. We then review the family's progress with these milestones periodically to make sure that they're on track to achieve their goals and that they actually touch on and hit all 7 checkpoints. To start that process, we have families complete our money discovery form, which shows them a snapshot of their finances, really in a way that most people have never seen before. It reveals so much and it creates urgency. It tells you where you are and it shows us how we can help you get to where you want to go. And that's the first step. Then we work with families to put a customized strategy in place that can help them be wise with money going forward for the rest of their lives. It's a roadmap that leads couples, families, and individuals from one stage of life to the next, and eventually to their goals for the future. So our leaders have deployed our How Many Works education system within their businesses and with their educators. And now we hold hundreds of courses across North America every single day. I know myself personally, I host about 6 to 7 of these different type of classes per month. And this is how we change the numbers. This is how we beat financial illiteracy in our communities. So at WealthWave, we're proving that financial education can transform the financial well-being of Black Americans. Our mission is to teach over 20 million families how money works within the next decade. And we are going to stamp out financial illiteracy in every single community. And that's a huge undertaking and one that will require an army of thousands of How Many Works educators. So we are looking for people to help us teach these classes. And that's where you or somebody you know can come in. You can contact me and ask me about how you can be a part of our mission to stamp out financial illiteracy and to obviously increase the financial well-being of Black Americans. Together, we're determined to close the financial literacy gap that hinders Black Americans with the power of financial education at every age and at every income level. And we will not stop, until protection, prosperity, wealth, and people have comfortable retirements, home ownership, business ownership, and legacy. We want that to be common in our communities. So thank you for your time today. I hope that information was insightful. And if you want to learn more, feel free to connect with me, however you reach this presentation. I definitely hope to talk with you more about these topics very soon. Bye now.